Thank you for tuning in to this special episode of Movie Geeks United. On this episode, we'll be discussing the film work of Mr. Alan Rickman, a brilliant actor, and by all accounts, an equally kind and generous person. We had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Rickman a few years back in connection to a pair of films that he did with director Randall Miller, Bottle Shock and Nobel Sun. And he was incredibly warm and funny. You'll hear that interview in just a little bit, where he asked us if we can make him an honorary geek. It was so charming.
That's sweet.
So I remember distinctly being in high school, and there were two guys that were the center of conversation in high school among the cool kids in our art school, because I went to kind of a theater school in high school. There was Gary Oldman, and there was Alan Rickman. And people loved them both equally. When do you guys remember being aware of Alan Rickman?
Well, I guess for me it would be the first Die Hard, which he's, let's be honest, arguably he's the greatest villain that series ever had, and stole the movie. I think we can all safely say that he really stole that film. But they all, I guess you see these obituaries and they say about Harry Potter. And don't get me wrong, he's great in Harry Potter, but he was also so good in so many other different kinds of movies, like Sense and Sensibility, Dogma, Love Actually. I mean, it wasn't just he was great. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's great at playing a villain. Even the Tom Selleck movie, Quigley Down Under, he stole that movie too. But he was just an all-around, he could play anything. There's no denying that. A very versatile actor, and I was just thinking about this earlier. I was just thank you, Jamie, that we got to talk to him. I mean, really, that was that's a really great. That's a real high point. So.
And he was one of those where you think, I mean, you hear that accent and that beautiful musical, what is the word for it? Euphonious. Mellifluous, yeah, mellifluous voice.
Yeah.
And you think, man, this is a proper guy here, and you kind of stand at attention. But at the same time, he was, by all accounts, incredibly approachable. Just a sweet, sweet man. I mean, I've seen people post that they used to be MySpace friends with him, and he would engage in conversations with them from MySpace, his fans.
Right, wow.
It's great.
The extraordinary thing about him is also realizing that he, really made his mark in Die Hard at a pretty, ripe age. I mean, at 42, he, just shot to fame with that one role. But that's pretty late to become a movie star. Yeah, very, very much so. But that just shows you the strength of that particular performance, which is, I mean, he does steal the movie away, and that movie is just grows and grows in as years progress as not just a great action film, but one of the great movies of that year. But I really respond to him in a lesser-known movie a couple of years later, Anthony Minghella's Truly, Madly, Deeply, which is sort of a British version of, it's sort of the British counterpart to our movie Ghost, the Patrick Swayze, Demi Moore film. But I find this movie infinitely more emotionally devastating, not only because of his very charming performance as the ghostly boyfriend, or I can't remember if the husband, or I think it's a husband, who was married to Juliet Stevenson, who's absolutely brilliant in the movie. It's a really, really sweet movie. It kind of goes off the rails a couple of times in its corniness a little bit, but I really respond to those two lead performances, and I think he's very, very charming in it. And You know what's interesting also about him too is that as great of an actor as he is, you don't he's not a person that really chewed the scenery really. It didn't really seem that way to me, at least.
No, you're right.
With a lot of yelling
but he has to do. He didn't have to do anything at all to win the scenery. I mean, to win the scene.
Right.
He wasn't. I mean, you see that in something. Well, you see that in everything he does. But something like Die Hard, you see that in. I mean, he could have been completely hammy in something like Dogma.
Right.
But he actually classes up that joint. I mean, just by being part of the
yes, he does.
It does. I mean, Kevin Smith definitely knows that. I saw his personally written obituary for him, and saying that he was the first, as he put it, as Smith put it, non-friend to sign on to Dogma. And
that's true. That's a great point, actually. Talking about his films, that would be, because you're like looking at the cast, like, yeah, these are all just Kevin's buddies. And well, wait, there's Alan Rickman, and
yeah, he sort of sticks out there, but
but he adds so much to that, though, too. I mean,
I loved him in. There's a great. He did a great movie in the mid-'90s for TV that's where he plays Rasputin.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
I really thought he was terrific in that too. I mean, but let me just say this: I do have to bring this up. It may be more than Die Hard for me. I just have a tremendous, immense love for him in Galaxy Quest. He is so freaking funny as Alexander Dane, you know, playing the alien with the alien makeup all the way through it. You know, even when it's falling off, it's still there. And he made me scream with laughter in that movie.
But, God.
You know, but what a remarkable career, because he has so many films that appeal to different demographics and generations as the ones that are among their favorites. I mean, from our generation, there's Die Hard and Robin Hood. But then for the romantic comedy generation, there's something like Love Actually, where he's always so awesome opposite Emma Thompson. I mean, they were a great pairing. For the younger generation, you have the entire Harry Potter series. And you know, he did the voice for Alice in Wonderland, and he did the voice for the sequel that's coming out, and he also has another movie that has yet to open as well with Helen Mirren. So he really appealed to every generation. I mean, his fan base must have been everyone.
Yeah, and what an extraordinary place for somebody like this to be, because let's face it, I mean, he's basically a character actor. But as a character actor, he really straddled the line from being a character actor to almost a superstar, and you can't say that about too many of that type of actor. You know, somebody who's essentially a supporting performer throughout most of his career. You know, not all of it, obviously. I mean, you know, obviously a lot of leads too, but it really. It really feels like, you know, as a supporting performer, that's really where he made a lot of his, you know, greatest marks. You know, another movie that I think should be mentioned too here is a 2004 movie done also for HBO called Something the Lord Made.
Yeah,
about the development of the first artificial heart. That's another really terrific TV movie that he contributed. As well, so I mean, you know, he was superb. What are you going to say? I mean, and you know, I guess I sure would like to see some of his stage work. You know,
right.
I mean, he did a lot of Shakespeare. He did stuff like Chekhov in his early days, but he also did a Royal Shakespeare Company production of Dangerous Liaisons, which was sent to Broadway in '87, and he got a Tony Award nomination for it. He would have been exceptional. Dangerously.
He would have been great as that. I mean, I assume he's playing what John Malkovich played in the in the film, and he would have been so great in that. You know, Malkovich was fine in it, but I don't know, he would have taken it to another level, I think.
Okay, here's our interview with Alan Rickman from a few years ago. We start out by talking about his work with the director Randall Miller, who he did the two films that we discuss, Bottle Shock and Nobel's Son. And then we get on to other aspects of his career in this very brief, all too brief, 10-minute conversation. And I got to tell you, I'm regretful that I didn't actually send Alan Rickman a Movie Geek plaque. Because
I know, man, I know. Yeah.
That would have been a story. I did speak to Mr. Miller a couple of months ago in connection to this film and Bottle Shock.
Okay.
And he's obviously crazy about you, and I'm wondering what attracts you to the idea of working with him.
Because you read the scripts and they don't obey any rules, whatever so-called rules of writing are supposed to be, but and his movies resist any labels. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, always attractive to an actor, because you know you're only as good as the writing. That much I've learned.
Yeah.
And your imagination won't kick in unless something kicks it. So it's kind of a no-brainer to me. You know, it's like a holiday in a way, or a playground. And you know something must be right because these great actors are there to work with.
Yeah, yeah, and it is like its own sort of rep company. I mean, you're working with people that you worked with on the previous project with Mr. Miller. And
yeah.
I'm wondering what that does, how that affects the experience of shooting these films.
I think it means that there are all sorts of shortcuts. It doesn't make things necessarily simpler or easier, because, you know, you're talking about actors who are very challenging to work with, and so it should be. You know, you want to work, and it's not like a career move or a soft option. It's just the way actors would like it to be. There's a proper marketplace. It means maybe there are shortcuts in terms of you know, the usual absence on a film set of rehearsal. It means you have a kind of shorthand dialogue, which in some ways maybe takes the place of rehearsal.
Sure.
You can just try things. It's more improvisational. There's a lot of trust around. I think that would be the most important thing.
Yeah. What amazes me is how different these two movies are, too. Nobel's Son, very frenetic.
Totally different rhythms and totally different look and totally different kind of atmosphere and energy to them.
Yeah, and you're playing a real kind of flamboyantly egotistical character in this, and you're just terrific in it. And when you read it on the page, did you have an idea right away how you would approach this guy?
Well, I really didn't have a clue, and I got on the plane with not much of a clue either, because the last thing you should probably ever do as an actor is judge your character. Mm. So it was a question of finding some way to play him without judging him. I always rely on fairly basic instincts, and some instinct made me go to my dentist in London and say, I need you to make me some imperfect front teeth. Because I thought there was something sort of shark-like about his appetites.
Right.
And I needed to feel different and look in the mirror and look different. I thought that would be at least a start to something. And it helped a lot. You know, whether you notice it or not watching the film, I've got these two front teeth that kind of just wrap over each other rather than, you know, being a victim of the great American dentist. Which
do you do that often? Do you use kind of external forces to inform kind of the internal life of the character?
Well, not that often, although, you know, the costume is very important to me, and usually that's a slow process, and there's always a discussion with the costume designer, and you know, some characters care about the way they look and others don't, and sometimes I'm happy to totally hand it over if you're playing somebody who makes no choices about what they wear. The palette is full of different elements, I guess. It just depends. In this case, it was an instinct that I obeyed and it helped, but I don't usually go for strong. I'm stuck with who I am, basically, and so are you.
Right. And I noticed that there seems to be, maybe I'm incorrect, but this misconception that you don't delve into comedy that often, but in fact your resume is populated with comical performances.
I hope so. I always think laughter's available. It may not be a joke, it may not be a gag, but the laughter of recognition by an audience, I think's there, whatever you do. I got quite a lot of laughs when I played Hamlet.
Yeah. And is that particularly freeing to play a character like this, and is there any danger of taking it too far?
There's always that danger, and that's where you need the director. Mm-hmm. Less, is a very useful and quick word for a director to utter.
Right. Once we announced your presence on the show, we were inundated with listener questions. There's a lot of love for you out there. So I know we have limited time, so let me get a couple of these off before we have to part. Anne wants to know, I think Anne is from Germany. She's really curious about your directing project. I think it's a movie called The House in Paris, and where you are with that.
Well, I now know that I don't shoot the last Harry Potter until the end of next year, so although it starts shooting at the beginning of next year. And so therefore there is space, and so with the stars aligning and all the rest of the finagling that goes to making an independent movie, with luck, we will shoot it next year.
Oh, that would be terrific.
That's the aim.
Yeah. Have you directed stage as well?
I just finished directing a play in London at the Donmar Warehouse called Creditors by Strindberg, and that also is due to hopefully have another life in New York next year.
Is there something about directing that kind of completes you in a way that acting alone doesn't, or is it just a natural extension for you?
It's become a very, very different animal. I think it's because I trained at art school and was a graphic designer, it's like pulling all of the elements together. It's not that I prefer one or the other, but it just feels that one's got to a point now where there are certain things about telling a story that you want to hand on, and that the whole business is a bit of a relay race, and at certain times you find yourself holding a baton, and the job is to pass it on. So it's a question then of finding a story that has images jumping off the page that you don't want to act in necessarily, but you would like to talk to a DP about.
Right. And John wants to know about, you mentioned your shooting schedule with Harry Potter, but you're also involved in Burton's Alice in Wonderland as well.
Yeah.
Have you already started shooting on that, and tell me about that
Well,
experience.
I've started. It's a complicated process because some of it's live action, some of it's animation, and some of it's stop motion. And I'm playing the caterpillar, which is animated, but it's my face. So I've done a bit of early work on it where they shot me speaking the lines so that they've got something to work with, and then they'll go away and spend the next year putting the whole movie together, and then I guess I'll go and record it all again. So
that is interesting when technology evolves like it has so quickly. It does kind of offer more different opportunities for the actor.
When it's in the hands of a complete visionary like Tim, then I'm very happy to be a tube of paint and just hand myself over.
Yeah. I just want to say that the film is fantastic. It's
Thank
so
you.
enjoyable, and you are
I love
fantastic
doing
in it.
Thanks so much.
I would imagine so. And I thank you so much for your time. And Mr. Rickman, we're all huge fans of yours, and please come back to us sometime in the future.
Well, I'm an honorary geek then.
You are.
Thank you.
You'll receive a special plaque pretty soon.
Yeah, I think I'd like that.
That was our conversation with Alan Rickman, and we thank him for his generosity in talking to us for that brief amount of time, and for the years of great work that he gave us. I mean, he was a favorite, especially among, I mean, it goes without saying, among every generation of moviegoer, but actors had a very special place in their heart for Alan Rickman.
Right.
You know, and that's been apparent to me since the late 80s when he broke out.